This is Alabama Politics with Steve Flowers, an in-depth interview with Alabama's top political newsmakers. Now, from the studios of Troy University, here is Steve Flowers.
I'm Steve Flowers, and welcome to Alabama Politics. Folks, we're fortunate tonight to have one of my good friends in Alabama politics, one of the prettiest and sweetest and best politicians in the state, Twinkle Cavanaugh. And you folks didn't know they were giving you a great political name when you're born. That's her God-given name, y'all.
Well, thanks,
Twinkle.
Steve. I appreciate it. You're right. I don't think they ever expected a daughter that would run for office or be blessed to get to serve. So I thank the folks here in Alabama for allowing me to serve.
Twinkle's young, but she knows a lot about Alabama politics. She's been around it a while, but she started off as an educator. You know, she was an educator first, and if you will, Twinkle, go back and I know folks probably know everybody's biography in the state, but you'd be surprised. They like to know people's background. You were born here in Montgomery, right across the street. We're filming this show, y'all, at the Rosa Parks building downtown Montgomery is where I filmed this show. And Twinkle and her best friend and assistant, Debbie, were both born over here in St. Margaret's Hospital.
That's correct.
You could throw a stone to where you were born, Twinkle, right? Almost.
That's correct. You are right.
Born and raised here in Montgomery.
It's now a state office building, but back then it was the hospital downtown. And
was Jackson even in a business then?
You know, I had surgery when I was 3 years old at Jackson's Hospital.
So the same hospital.
It'd be about the same time frame, but Jackson's is still thriving.
Did you grew up all your life in Montgomery?
I grew up in Montgomery. My cousins called me the city cousin because, as you know, my family is from Pike County, Bullock County, and Crenshaw County.
Right in that neck of the woods.
Right in those neck of the woods.
Twinkle, tell me now, your cousins were down there in Union Springs.
That's correct.
In Bullock County, which is right on that same area where your grandmama lived in my county, in Pike County.
That's right.
Right there.
My grandparents in Bullock County were cotton, soybean, and peanut farmers.
What was their name?
Their last name was Richardson.
Oh, yeah, you're Richardson.
And
were you and what's his name that was a superintendent akin to each other then?
Well, I think far down the line we were. That's correct.
I knew his people too. They up in that area.
That's
y'all
right.
all got to be kin if y'all named Richardson from that area of the county.
That's where the gene pool doesn't get too deep, huh?
Have you ever talked to him about that?
Yes, sir, I have. And then my
I'd forgotten your mama was a Richardson. Was it on your mama's side?
Right, and then on my mother's side they were Lawsons. And
that's two
the
big
Lawsons
families
go
up
big
there. Oh gosh!
Back, right, had the big
all
reunion.
That Josie and they were all up.
Exactly.
And your grandmama, my friend, was a Lawson, or she a Richardson?
She was a Lawson, her maiden name, and my grandmother, actually, her middle name is Josie, which is the town
Did they name her after
That's
that?
right.
I can't get over that, Twinkle. I didn't know all that.
Rest her soul. She passed away. I know she's looking down from heaven now, but she passed away 2 years ago on Election Day. So I was holding her hand when she
you were
left.
with her.
I was with her, and
you went through her trunk and found my letter from her.
I did. I went through the cedar chest, the old cedar chest, and you had written her a note. She had your telephone number and your name scribbled on a sheet of paper, and I thought, how special.
I used to work that part of the county. I went to all those homecomings and reunions, and I remember seeing her, and I remember seeing, but I had forgotten about your Richardson connections. So all those Richardsons and Lawsons, those are big families in that little area right there. Like you said, Bullock, Pike County, it crosses the line. You know, George Wallace used to tell me that I was his representative my first term in the legislature, and he would say, he had folks up there too. Did you know Wallace had kin folks up there?
Yes, sir, I sure do.
He would say...
They were proud of him in Barber and Bullock counties. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Oh, Wallace would say, Steve, you know, I'm kin to those Shepherds and Flemings in the northern part of your county, you know, they're my kin folks, you know. I'm kin to all those people. My grandfather was an old doctor up there. He would not only treat people, he'd vaccinate dogs too, you know. He said he spent his summer vaccinating dogs one summer, but I can't get over that. And you were with your grandma when she passed away up there.
I certainly was. I was holding her hand.
Aren't you proud of that?
I sure am. And
was she in the hospital?
She was here in an assisted living home out by East Chase.
How old was she gotten to be?
She was 1 month shy of her 94th birthday and was in great health up until the last month.
There were some preachers' Lawsons up there.
Yes,
some of those Lawsons were preachers up there.
That's correct. That's correct. And most of them were Methodists, but we had a few primitive Baptists.
You know where Sandfield is, don't you?
I certainly do. I
You
know
probably
all
got
that
you
area.
got kinfolks buried in Sandfield. Do you know that?
I'm certain I do. So, and also,
I'd forgotten about that.
most of them are buried in P-Rote,
Yeah.
in the P-Rote Cemetery.
In Bullock County.
And then down at the Rhema Church.
Yeah.
Right there in Josie.
That was a Primitive Baptist church.
Right. And
Preacher Walker was there.
that's right.
Remember Preacher Walker? He was there 30 or 40 years. They called him Preacher Walker.
Well, back to my 4th great-grandparents are buried in that cemetery.
Is that, and that what, right there in
Rhema? And, you know, I don't know that anybody had any big famous name or anything, but they sure were great folks.
Well, you know, I talking about that. When old Wallace would tell me he's kin to the shepherds up there, you know, that's Hank Williams' wife's people. And I'd say, well, Wallace, I say, Governor, you kin to the Hank Williams then, if you kin to, or, you know, his Hank Williams Jr. I think Hank knew that. Hank Jr. hangs out up there, you know. He's got land. He and Kid Rock have bought half the land up there, where all our people used to be.
I actually bought tickets at the Shakespeare Theater for my grandmother to go see the Hank Williams show. And it was Mother's Day. And it's probably been, I don't even know, 10 or 15, well, probably 15 years ago now. And she thoroughly enjoyed it, but she knew them very well.
She knew the shepherds up there, huh?
Yes, and so she knew all the family, and she said they acted just like that. It was a good rendition at the Shakespeare.
Hank Jr. spends half his year up there, hunting and everything.
Really? I did not know that.
Oh, yeah, he owns land in Pike and Bullock, and he got his buddy Kid Rock to buy land.
Wow.
They both own all that land. Actually, Kid Rock and Hank Williams own some of my Uncle Luther's land up around China Grove.
Well, now you need to get them on the TV show.
I know it.
That'd give you some big ratings.
I know it. I really should, because he'd love to do that.
He'd love it.
And
he
wears
wears
his
he's
glasses.
an Alabama character, isn't that right?
He wears those glasses wherever he goes.
That's right.
That trademark thing. But Twinkle, now tell me, you went to Auburn out of high school here in Montgomery, then you became an educator first.
I did. I taught science and computers at Houston Hills Junior High School. I taught 8th and 9th grade, and that's just right at the top of the hill in downtown Montgomery.
You can see it in your office just
I
about.
sure could. But anyway, I taught for 1 year, and a lot of times people like to go out and find a job way off after college and all, but my parents said if I wanted to do that, I needed to fund myself. And so I taught school for a year, and the day school was out, I had my car packed, and I drove to Washington, D.C.
How did you decide to get, did you have the political bug?
You know, I always enjoyed politics.
This was before you were 30 when you went to Washington.
Oh my goodness, I was right out of college. I'd taught 1 year and then moved to Washington.
So you were 23, 24 years old when you went to work for Callahan.
Right. Well, my first job was actually with the Republican National Committee, and it wasn't anything fancy. I was answering telephones, and I told them if they'd just give me a chance, I'd prove myself.
What year is this, Twinkle, when that happened?
In 1989. And
that was before the state had totally turned Republican.
When I got to Washington, talking about our federal delegation, we had 2 Republicans, Dickinson and Callahan. And we had 7 Democrats.
Erdrich was in there.
If you'll remember, our 2 senators were Heflin and Shelby.
2 Democrats.
And we hadn't gotten Shelby at the time to change parties. And so this is way back. And so anyway, and then of the congressmen, there were 5 Democrats and 2 Republicans.
That's right, because Erdrich had taken that Birmingham seat back as a Democrat.
Let me brag just a minute. When I left Washington, it had completely flipped, and we had 2 Democrats and 5 Republican House congressmen, and then both of our senators were Republicans, Shelby and Sessions. So things really changed during that decade that I was allowed to serve in Washington.
You stayed a decade.
96.
You stayed a decade up there.
And so really enjoyed it. But you know what? I came home for what we talked about in the very beginning, my family. There was no one in Washington that I felt like was a real role model. And I was looking for a role model. And my role model was my grandmother and my mother. And
so
it
you
was
and your
time to come home.
Who lived in Pike County, we y'all real close.
Oh, very close. She was so dear.
Twinkle, let me ask you. So you were in your mid-30s and you came back.
Right.
And then, and you you actually were head of the Republican Party at a young age then. What years you head of the Republican Party in the state?
Yes, sir. I was chairman of the Republican Party here in Alabama for 2 years.
As soon as you came back home?
Well, no, sir. I was executive director of the Alabama Republican Party.
Was it in Birmingham or Montgomery?
It was in Birmingham. And that was right after I came home. I worked for 1 year on a lot of different campaigns and then went to work as the executive director of the Alabama Republican Party. And then after that, I served in several different positions before I was actually elected chairman of the Alabama Republican Party.
Then what did you run for your first time? You've run statewide 3 or 4 times, haven't you?
I have, and I always tell folks, Twinkle wasn't exactly the most popular name the first time I ran. People thought, what in the world, what is a Twinkle? But,
what year did you run statewide first time?
I ran for the first time in, let me make sure I get my years right, 2002.
The year Riley was elected.
That's correct. And
you had helped Riley. Did you work in his office or something?
Actually, I did not work on his campaign.
Because you had your own
campaign.
campaign.
After he was elected, I was offered a position on his staff. And then what I was going to say is I ran again and lost.
In 06?
And let me make sure I'm to 08. I ran for
president. You waited 6 years then.
of the Public Service Commission. And during that time, I served as chairman of the Alabama Republican Party. I was elected to that position, but I also lost.
But you won the Republican nomination.
Yes, sir.
Lucy Baxley won that race.
Yes, sir. And Lucy Baxley, yes, sir. But you know what? I believe that if something's worth having, you need to be willing to work for it. And
you came back 2 years later and elected associate commissioner.
Correct. And then 2 years after that, I once again ran against Lucy Baxley for president of the commission. And thanks to the people of this great state, I was elected. But I never stopped. I never stopped traveling the state and talking to people about my vision for the state of Alabama. All my life I believed in smaller government. I believed in lower taxes. I believed in individual responsibility. And so when I got there, I knew instantly what I wanted to accomplish at the commission. And I think we've been able to do it. We've got a great team at the commission. And we've been, as I tweeted out this morning, the 2016, we are now through with that budget, and looking back at it, we were able to cut our expenses by 6%. And when you add that into all the other cuts we've made at the commission, we are now 30% less spending at the commission than we were 6 years ago when I got to the commission. So in 6 years, we've been able to cut 30%, and we've been able to decrease each year. So our graph of spending, shows a quick progression of decreases. And that was my job. That's what I wanted to get done.
You've done a good job. You cut your budget, and that's what's important. Twinkle, how many employees are over there at the Public Service Commission?
When I got there 6 years ago, we had 119 employees, and today
with a payroll of about what?
We have 73. Right now, the commission spends less than half of what we take in, and anything that we do not spend, we turn over to the general fund. And so anything we can save at the commission, it goes to the general fund, and the general fund then doesn't have to ask for higher taxes. In fact, when I first got there, we were turning over about $3 million to the general fund, and in 2016 we turned over $12.5 million to the general fund. And I believe that if we look at all the agencies throughout the state of Alabama and see where we can trim, I don't believe that the Public Service Commission is the Lone Ranger. I think that each agency has areas that they can trim, but it's going to take someone with a philosophy of smaller government, limited government, and that we can't be all things to all people as a government. That's where individual responsibility comes in. But with that, you get to keep more money in your own pocket, and so that's
taxpayers do.
You got it, and that's what we're looking for, at the commission, and that's what I think we need to be looking at throughout the state, as far as state government goes.
Twinkle, now y'all got out of 73 or 74 employees, you said. Most of those, I'd say 65 of them are merit system, aren't they? Or 60 of them probably.
Yes, probably more than that. I'd have to do the math. There are only 6 employees that are not merit employees.
Only 6 employees?
Only 6 employees that are not.
And including the 3 of y'all.
And 3 of those 6 require an engineering degree or a law degree or work in utilities, at least 10 years experience in utilities. So even the three, what most people term as political appointments, are not truly a political appointment because they have to have specifications like that.
So you have, each commissioner has only three political appointments. They have two. Administrative assistant and a technical assistant. It's really called technical assistant. Who has to have a degree in engineering or law or something like that.
Business, MBA, a law degree, or they can have 10 years of experience in the utilities field, or they can have an engineering degree with 4 years of experience in the utilities field.
Twinkle, now let me ask you this: if as president, are you in charge of having to oversee all the employees? Is that one of the jobs of being president? Who oversees the employees?
Actually, the commission is equally divided, and
so y'all
each
have
of us have the same role collectively, and everything takes a vote of at least two commissioners or a majority of the commission.
But as far as administrative duties, like if somebody comes in and has a complaint about somebody doing wrong or something like that, who oversees that?
We actually have divided up the responsibilities at the commission, but really each of us is responsible for everything at the commission.
Okay. Well, let me, folks, in case y'all don't know this, there's three commissioners, two associate commissioners, and the president. Twinkle is the president, and she was just elected to a 4-year term from 2016 through 2020. These two other ones run off in the same gubernatorial year. They run in 2 years from now for 4 years.
Correct.
Both of them are 4-year terms. But this is the only one that runs in the presidential year, is Twinkle in the presidency. So she has a free, without taking a risk, she can run for governor or anything she wants to run for next time. Without taking a risk, she might. And you probably got better name ID than most of them do.
Well, let me just say,
that's going to be a heck of a year, though, isn't it?
I am so honored to be able to serve the people of Alabama at the Public Service Commission. It's a real honor. I've thoroughly enjoyed my 6 years at the commission, but I have said that I believe in term limits, and when I believe in something, I stick to it. I believe in term limits, and so this will be my last term at the commission. However, looking at leadership for the future of our state is something I definitely plan to do. I'm not yet ready to make any type of announcement, but I can assure you that whatever I plan to do, it will be with a conservative eye looking to what we can do to right the ship in the state of Alabama. They're always saying we need more money. Why do we need more money? Have we looked at all of these agencies? I believe that we can run this state conservatively, cut out the things we don't need to be doing, and live within our means. I know at my house, we have to live within a budget.
Everybody does.
My husband constantly is like, wait a minute, what is this? So, you know, we've got to do that as a state, too.
Speaking of that and your husband, but let me say this back to the politics. Everything's open next time, folks. We're going to have the best election year. I'm going to have like a circus. It's going to be like a big old play day for me. I'm going to have, you've got a governor, lieutenant governor, and a lot of folks think Twinkle may run for lieutenant governor, secretary of state, state treasurer, auditor, agriculture commissioner, all 140 legislative seats, 35, and every sheriff. So it is going to be the best year. And then you throw on top of that a U.S. Senate race is going to be happening. We're going to have the best time. And it starts, y'all. We're sitting here in December. The election bell rings probably as soon as the year starts next year, but fundraising begins June 1st.
That's correct.
Or right around there. So everybody's got to start raising money.
You know, your viewers are probably saying, phew, didn't we just get through a big election? Didn't we just finish that? And in fact, I was very involved in the Trump campaign, but just as you know, as I say, just as a volunteer, I actually went to the Panhandle of Florida and went door to door for him, and had some real interesting stories there. But the reality is, I believe we've got great leadership now, and I believe that he's going to be a president for everyone. And now we've just got to look at what are we going to do, and what are we looking for in the state of Alabama. And I believe Alabama is the beacon for the rest of our country. I believe we can be the beacon that shines the brightest because we are the most conservative and the reddest state in the nation.
And one thing, too, I want to commend you on is Nobody can out-Republican you. I mean, you're talking about a Republican pedigree, being chairman of the party, and you've been on the Public Service Commission, what, 10 years now?
No, sir, just 6.
6 years.
That's right.
2 as associate and 4 as president. You'll be 10 at the end of this time unless you move to some other office.
And but you know, it's interesting. People talk about your Republican pedigree. The reality is, I'm just a common sense conservative. And I believe that if we will go in and govern like we say we believe, then you know what? We're going to be a conservative state. Our beacon's going to shine brighter, and folks are going to have more money in their pockets, and we're going to have jobs. And that's what this is really all about. It's jobs for the people of Alabama, and it's being able to worship and not have anyone, you know, it bothers me to see what we're seeing on TV these days. But the reality is people in Alabama want to go to their churches and worship and to be able to say Merry Christmas, and we want to keep our money in our own pockets and have the ability to help our neighbor because we love our neighbor, not because the government's forcing us to do something. And that's the difference. And so I say I'm a common sense conservative and proud to be a Republican, absolutely. But look, I don't care if you're a Republican, a Democrat, or anything else. It's really about loving our neighbor in the state of Alabama and being able to say Merry Christmas and being able to do things for others because it's in our heart and that's what we want to do.
Twinkle, you know, one thing I was going to say is a lot of folks sort of hid, but you showed your true Republican colors. And I think people who were involved with the Trump campaign, I think even all the way to Trump himself, they know who was there. And I saw you at that bus tour when they came out, and you were there. You went to Florida to campaign. There were some folks that hid during that campaign, and actually took a couple of them, came out and said they wasn't going to vote for him. But you're a Republican, and you said, look, he's our nominee. And let me tell you, you poll him right now, he's popular as he can be. One thing I want to mention that we were talking about before the show, bring this to light, and I thought that was a good point you made about Trump saying this. You know, as we sit here now, there's this ripple about trying to recount Wisconsin and Michigan and some other things. It's not going to amount to anything, I don't think. But, you know, you mentioned something I had not heard. Trump tweeted out about that, about the if he can't say that. You're not talking about the campaign
right.
statewide.
I read a tweet, I think yesterday, by Trump himself, which is also interesting that he tweets himself. I like that. But he basically said, look, I wasn't going, the rules of the game said I had to win the Electoral College. They didn't say I had to win the popular vote. If I'd been going after the popular vote, I would have had a different plan. And so we both laughed about it, and that's the same in the state of Alabama. We're a big state, 67 counties, and it's tough getting to all those counties.
Yeah.
But you have to look at it as somebody told me, eating an elephant, you eat it one bite at a time, and you got to get to each of those counties and find the big events and be able to speak with people. But I also think it's important to have an open door policy. Everywhere I go, I give out my cell number. And I love when people call me. I'll do it again today if you want to post it up.
Do you call the folks just call you from Wilcox County?
Absolutely. 334-558-5432. It's my personal cell phone. You've got it, Steve.
Yeah, oh yeah. You and I talk to each other all the time.
My family has that number, and I encourage people to call me. I have an open door policy. If somebody needs me, they can call me or they can come see me. And that's what I think is so important. Besides getting out, which I do, I love to get out and speak to the different groups. In fact, Monday of Thanksgiving, I was at the Farm City event over in Lee County, and the Thursday night before that, I was up in Marshall County, and in fact, that night after that, that was for the morning, and that night over in up in Huntsville. But you know, we have a big state. It's impossible to be everywhere at one time, but you got to do it, like I said, one bite at a time, and get to all the counties and just talk to all the wonderful people living in this state. It's just an honor to get to serve everybody.
Twinkle, one thing too I'll commend you on is you have not let the politics wag the dog, tail the dog, whatever you say. You've been a mother and a family person and a good citizen, but mostly you've done a yeoman's job in being a mother. Everybody knows that who knows you. And your daughter, Ann Wilkes.
That's right.
She's 9 now. She's in the 4th grade. You have been there with her from the get-go, and I tell you, I don't think you're ever going to regret that.
Let me tell you, if I had to list my accomplishments in order, my number one would be that precious little girl. I've got 2 beautiful grandchildren now. They're a lot of fun. And they were with us this weekend. Boy, talk about chaotic Thanksgiving with all the children, but oh, how much fun.
Did y'all cook at home and your mom and daddy?
We were at Mama's. I made the homemade pecan pies.
Y'all go to Greenville? They live in Greenville?
No, Mother's in Montgomery now.
Okay.
And I made the homemade pecan pies, and we had turkey and dressing and cranberry sauce and collard greens and all. It was just fantastic. But I love being a mother.
Jeff's family comes too.
They do, and I have a great husband that's very supportive of what I do. He's a veterinarian here in Montgomery.
Dr. Cavanaugh, yeah.
And, but
right there on Carter Hill Road.
That's right. But as he says, he likes to stay in the background. But he's a staunch conservative and enjoys hearing about what I do, but he likes to be in the background. But you're right, and I think I stay grounded, Steve, first of all, because I don't take anything from anybody. You know, if I go eat lunch or dinner at a function, I pay for my own lunch and I pay for my own dinner. I didn't take a state car. I do take a paycheck, unlike our governor, but you know, and every day I say a prayer, Lord, this is about you. Tell me what you want me to be doing while I'm using my time on this earth. And I hope I can always be grounded, because I'm drawing my strength from Jesus Christ.
Well, it's
without
obvious,
a shadow of a doubt, that's where it comes from.
Well, it's obvious you're a Christian lady, and you don't wear your politics on your sleeve. And you hadn't made that your worship idol. You've been a good Christian lady and a mother, and I think you're never going to regret that. Everybody knows who knows you spend a lot of time with Ann Wilkes.
And she got braces this morning, so boy, today is a big day at our house. And this is the age where you think they look great.
Your teeth are perfect. You have to have that done.
You know, I never had braces. You're mighty kind.
I had one daughter who was lucky like you, just like that, and another one that didn't. So, but yours were just right.
My brother wore braces and I didn't, but I remember in the 4th grade, I sure wanted them.
Well, quickly, our time's up. Folks, our guest tonight has been the Papa Twinkle Cavanaugh, President of the Alabama Public Service Commission, and Montgomeryan here, and most of our viewers in the River region. We appreciate her taking time to be with us tonight. We appreciate you viewers watching, and we wish you a happy holidays and hope you tune again next week for This Week in Alabama Politics.